Hey everyone, I've got some concerning news about physical video games, and there's been a lot of things that's been happening, and I wanted to take my time to break it all down. But first, allow me to have a sip of my coffee. Oh man, this is good. Anyway, this topic is especially important because it's unclear how much longer we'll be able to buy, play, and enjoy physical games, especially as we approach the next generations of consoles. Yes, of course, I'm talking about PlayStation 6, insane just to think about that, which could be arriving as early as 2027 of holiday season. So, let's get into it. Again, let me get some coffee in. I just woke up. One of the more recent announcements is that Sony is stopping production of rewritable Blu-ray discs. These are blank discs people can use to store data, not the ones that you typically buy from them for the movies and games. While this news might not seem huge at first, since the market for the rewritable media is already small, it's another sign of how physical media is declining overall. This isn't just about games. We've seen this trend elsewhere too. For an example, Best Buy announced that it's stopping the sales of the physical movies, although they're still selling games, well, at least for now. Still, it's clear that demand for the physical media is shrinking across the board, and each decision like this has a ripple effect. So we've been following this trend ever since the launch of the PlayStation 5, and I have made a few videos kind of similar to this topic. Sony originally offered two versions of the PlayStation 5, let's get into that first. One with a disc drive and one as just digital only. And recently they released the PlayStation 5 Slim, which continues this trend. The Slim has a detachable disc drive that you can buy separately, but many people are choosing an all-digital version. This is actually a similar thing is happening with the PlayStation 5 Pro. So when the PS5 first launched, the split between disc-based and digital console was roughly about 80-20. Most people bought the version with a disc drive. But over the time the numbers have shifted. Recent data shows that nearly half of all the PlayStation 5 consoles sold in 2024 were digital only. For Xbox, the trend is very similar, with about 44% of the consoles sold being digital versions. Just think about that. It's a bit odd that it's not even higher, since Xbox is all about the Game Pass. This shift raises concerns about the future of the physical games. Even though many people still prefer buying discs, the growing popularity of digital consoles means fewer players will have the option to buy physical games in the future. Another major issue is the rapid decline in physical game sales. Data from Matt Piscatella, a video game industry analyst, shows that spending on physical games in the US has dropped by over 50% since 2021 and is now 85% lower than its peak in 2008. Back in 2008, physical game sales were booming, partly because digital storefronts like PlayStation Store and Xbox Live were still quite small. People were spending more at retailer stores on games and accessories like Guitar Hero and Rock Band bundles. Now, with so many people buying games digitally, physical sales have taken a huge hit. Nintendo is one of the few companies still prioritizing physical media, as the upcoming Switch 2 will continue to use the same game cartridges. However, it is unclear if this will be enough to reverse the overall decline. Okay, so since we're having this sort of a concerning issue, I want to take a look ahead. I want to take a look at the head towards the PlayStation 6, which is likely just a few years away. There are some big questions about whether it will continue to support physical media. While it seems likely that Sony will offer a way to play discs, it might not be a standard feature. Instead, we could see something like the PlayStation 5 Pro's approach, where only digital editions are sold and a disc drive is offered as an optional accessory. This is genuinely a major concern, because it would limit the numbers of players who can use physical games. If fewer consoles support discs out of the box, it becomes harder to justify producing physical games at all. Even if the PS6 does support discs, it might be in a limited or a less convenient way, like requiring an external drive that connects to the console. In fact, this may even mean that we'll have to use a USB-C or USB-A or whatever and just have an external disk drive. Just to think about that, that's gonna look pretty ugly in the setup. At least for now, that we can attach our disk drive towards the PlayStation 5 on its side, at least it does have a presentable look to it. But I am genuinely worried about this. So the shift away from the physical games isn't just about personal preference. It's about preserving the option to own and play games in a way that doesn't rely entirely on online services. Physical games allow players to own a copy of the game that they can play anytime, even if the server goes down or digital storefronts is shut down. Another issue is the production of the physical media itself. As more companies move away from the physical formats, the infrastructure to produce discs and disk drives becomes less and less sustainable. This creates a feedback loop, where it becomes harder and more expensive to make physical games, further accelerating the shift to digital. Microsoft already made it clear that their focus is on the digital future. Their next console is expected to be fully digital, with no support for the physical games. Sony has been slower to push to this transition, but the growing sales of digital PS5 consoles suggests that they're heading in a similar direction. Nintendo is the outlier for now, but even they may eventually follow suit if the demand for physical media continues to decline. The future of the physical video games is looking uncertain. While it's likely that the next generation of consoles will still offer some form of a disc support, it might be such a kind of a small part of the overall market. This could mean fewer physical games, higher prices, and more reliance on the digital platforms. For now, we'll have to wait and see how things play out. But it's clear that physical media is becoming a niche part of the gaming industry. Let's just hope companies like Sony and Nintendo find a way to keep it alive, even as the market shifts towards the digital. Thank you so much for joining in with me regarding this conversation and the discussion. It genuinely makes me worried about the future of physical media and physical games. Because other than this, there's also big problems that we cannot yet see that definitely will be brought up. As an example, one that I can think of at the moment, like military. There could be no internet connectivity, and they will not be able to access any digital games and media due to their consoles being, well, completely digital. That will be a problem, and it could be problematic. Now, I'm sure a lot of people will say and counter that, say, okay, you could download the games upfront first, then bring the console with you somewhere else. Yeah, that is an option, but what about new games? You see, there's always some ways that, unfortunately, there's always some kind of circumstance that doesn't advise you to do so. It's better to have options. Have an option to have a physical game-based game that you can play, or, of course, digital. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. Do let me know as well down in the comments, what do you think about this whole ordeal? Are you worried or not? Do you even care about this sort of thing? Are your games mostly digital now already, so that's why it doesn't really concern you much? Or perhaps you're one of those collectors and much rather seeing physical media being continued. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe. See you guys all, and have a wonderful day.